We're going to continue from page 38 and 39, A Killer Without a Cure. Okay, on page 40, we're going to continue. We're on day 8 in Kitwit, Africa, for this deadly disease that has affected practically a partial or part of a country in Africa. So, just remember that you have to do the sides: active reading, the target word, reacts and writes. Make sure there are 2.5 paragraphs with transitional words and phrases on the side. And your summarization is 1 or 2 sentences. But you also have to go to page 41 and do your graphic organizer. So I'm going to start the magazine article. And it says here in the caption that scientists in Atlanta wore suits like this to protect themselves from the Ebola. Day 8 through 12 in Kitwit. First, the medical team took drastic steps. They quarantined or separated the sick from the healthy to keep the disease from spreading. Next, they tracked down the first victim of the disease in Kitwit. After extensive study, the scientists found that the victim had been infected by an Ebola-carrying bat when he was working in a local rainforest. Sister Bellery may have been infected while caring for his family, all of whom died. By day 12, more than 300 people had the Ebola virus. Their symptoms started with headaches. Their entire body started aching. Their internal organs and skin bled, and they vomited blood. The victims fell into comas before dying. Days 13 through 50 in Kitwit. Then, the medical team had to clean the hospital. They scrubbed blood from the mattresses. They told doctors and nurses to wear protective masks, gloves, and gowns. 6 weeks went by with no cases reported. The quarantine had worked. Finally, the Ebola was under control. But several questions remain. Where does Ebola come from, and when will it strike again? So now, when we started the first section here on page 39, I had you, and you must understand, you have to continue the skill focuses that I taught you from workshop 1 into workshop 2. So you do have to, in each subheading, you see days 1 through 3, it's written in red. Those are subheadings. So you must underline the main idea, highlight the main idea, and then find a supporting detail in here. I'm also going to ask you, for every transitional word that you see throughout this story, you need to circle all transitional words and phrases as well, okay? Now, you have to complete the sequence of events organizer on page 41. We're moving on. We're now moving on to our reading, workshop 2, reading 3, The Black Death. And you must do the key idea, the target word, the react and write. Once again, it has to be 2.5 paragraphs in length. Use transitional words and phrases. And also do the right side about sequence of events, main idea and details, and the synthesis. So make sure you complete this stuff. You have to type in your reacts and writes and send them through Google Docs. I don't want them on paper. You must type everything to me. Understood? Mm-hmm. Clear. Great. So I'm going to start the reading. The Black Death. The 14th century French painting shows a doctor treating a victim of the plague. The Black Death killed 25 million people. Find out how this disease spread through an entire continent. The first subheading says, The Plague Arrives. It started in Sicily in 1347. A ship docked in the town of Messina. But this ship was unlike any other. It was a ship of death. A mysterious illness had seized the crew. Many of them were already dead. The townspeople tried to turn the ship away, but it was too late. Rats scurried off the ship and into the streets of Messina. The bubonic plague, or Black Death, had arrived. First, People in Messina started dying. Then, the disease spread rapidly throughout Europe. Soon, millions of people were dying from the plague. At one point, 500 people a day died in Pisa, Italy. Nearly 800 people a day died in Paris, France. So we're going to our next subheading, which is fighting off death. And that's in red. With so many people getting sick and dying, families were torn apart. People fled their homes. Husbands left their wives. Parents abandoned their sick children. Wow. It was every man for itself. They didn't even care. They left to try and save their own selves. They had no choice. Soon, there were too many bodies to bury. Corpses were stacked high in graveyards. Ditches overflowed with the dead. Bodies piled up in the streets. People thought it was the end of the world. For 5 years, the Black Death swept through Europe. Historians estimated that it killed 25 million people. It had a bigger impact than any other disease in history. Today we know that the plague was carried by rats. The rats had fleas that bit people and infected them. But back then, no one knew how the plague spread. There was no cure for it. We're moving on to the next reading. It's on page 44 through 45. You're going to do the same with the sides. Record your reacts and writes and your summarizations through Google Docs to me. Your sequence of events, record that information to me as well. But you're going to write this stuff in your book as well. Understood? You got that? You have to record. You have to highlight your main idea. You have to put your supporting details, which you're going to underline with the pencil. You still do the work in the book. Understood? Plus, you're going to type in your responses to me through Google Docs. And that's how I'm going to check your attendance. That's how I'm going to know that you're online. And I'll be communicating with you that way. So it says brutal death. What exactly was the Black Death and how did it kill people? First, it began with a headache. Then came fevers, chills, nausea, and pain. Soon, red blotches appeared on the skin. The lymph nodes in the armpits swelled to the size of eggs. After that, the nodes grew hard until they turned black and oozed blood and pus. It's like a shape of an egg. In most cases, death came soon afterward. These black swollen lumps led people to call the plague the Black Death, the return of the plague. After 5 years, the plague died out, but there were outbreaks in later centuries. In 1665, the plague struck the village of Eyam, England. The epidemic allegedly started with a tailor in Eyam received a contaminated package from London. And if you don't know what I mean by tailor, it's a seamstress, but he's a male. And he fixes, clothing, suits, pants, whatever. The package was infested with fleas carrying the plague. Soon after, the people of Eyam started dying. Now below, and let me know, allegedly means when something's claimed but not proven. But below you have this chart, and it tells you about the plague and other bioweapons of today. And they have the plague, the botulism, Ebola, and the tularemia. These are some of the plagues that, attacked the world, and many lives were taken from this. So it goes on to read, instead of fleeing Eyam, the villager did something courageous. They decided to seal off the village from the rest of the countryside. That way, the plague wouldn't contaminate other villages. Then, the villagers waited for death. In the end, 260 people died. However, nearly 100 survived. Centuries later, in 2000, scientists wanted to know why some villagers survived the plague. To find out, they did extensive research on the survivors' descendants. They discovered a genetic mutation in the descendants called Delta 32. This mutation may have provided resistance to the plague. Scientists hope this information may help them find a plague vaccine. They wanted to be prepared just in case a Black Death strikes again. Now, I want you to think after you read this, do you think the Black Death has come back? Or do you think, we're making a big thing out of it? You know, all we just need to do is keep our hands to ourselves, keep our germs to ourselves, take the necessary precautions, and we should be okay. Now, just remember that you need to, and I'm going to reiterate this to you, you need to make sure you complete everything in this chart. Now, after you've done all these assignments, then and only will you go to the word challenge of the vocabulary. Now, this is on page 46 and 47, and you must do this. You must do this. It's like a little puzzle, and it says, think about it. You get to choose. It's number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it looks like this. So this is what you need to do is the word challenge. This has to be done as well. Are you supposed to do this in one day? No. But you have to remember you need to check in every day, Monday through Friday until otherwise told. So I should see you in there working. I should see documents sent to me. You still need to do your 60 minutes, and you must continue to make sure that you stay on track. Then after you're done the word challenge, we're going to go to the narrative paragraph and the brainstorm. And you're going to first do this sentence correction here. It's going to tell you what to do. And then on this brainstorm, when you begin your writing process, you have to choose one of the following. It says, read the following prompt in the middle of the idea web. Then use the boxes to help you brainstorm ideas. Now, the first one is illness. The second box is injuries. The third box is accidents and hospital visits. So you'll choose it. Thank you.